Do you actually remember like when and or how you learned the number system?
Actually, I do.
Okay,
And
cool.
this is not the conventional way. I think the way I learned was probably the hardest way possible.
Oh no.
Is I went into a church thinking I can play Hillsong all day. They tell
Right.
me, oh, it's just, dude, don't worry about it. Just show up. Here's some songs. Little did I know, they sent me some old school gospel the night before, doing some
Uh,
praise with these crazy lines. And then when I show up, I learned the other three songs that are pretty easy. They changed the keys, and I couldn't play another keys. I had to figure
uh,
out, okay, how do you do these number systems? You learn these chord shapes and it gets easier again when you're for me specifically. I rarely play acoustic guitar. It's usually electric, so I'm using three finger chord voicings, three string chord
right.
voicings, usually like the B, G, and D string. That's like my sweet spot, maybe the high E. But
Okay.
once you start learning the chord, you start learning the number system because there's constantly, hey, one, four, three, going into four. They're calling it out and the
Yeah.
MD, and you got to know where it's going, or like the flat seventh, the big one too. You just got to know the numbers, and through time, like osmosis, you just figure it out because you learn
Yeah.
so many songs. You start seeing the same chord progressions over and over and over. Instead of 1 6 5 4, it might be 5 4 6 1, and any other variation, or 3 to 4, depends on where it's go.
Yeah.
So I think over the years, you learn the number system. I never sat there like, hey, by hand, like figured it out, but just
Right.
through trial and error.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it is funny that in real time you were like, wait a minute, how do I do this? Like, and it just goes to show you like how snappy and fast you are at figuring out the music
Well,
side
at
of
the
it.
time,
Right.
I wish it was like that back then.
Uh,
At the time, my volume off and practically by this.
uh,
I didn't know how to play.
right. Yeah.
My volume was off for like maybe the first 6 months, but
Mm.
when I compared myself, because then we ended up playing the song again at Shield of Faith at this big conference. I learned the song again. This is years ago. I remember when I first learned the song, I couldn't learn it in time. It took me hours just to get that first line. I was like, I couldn't do
Right.
it because it's so new. You're learning, it's literally learning a new language. But
Yeah.
as time went on and I listened back to the song, I learned it within like half an hour to an hour because you just learn so much more out of the vocabulary, how you can just learn how everything's going, and because you learn so many other lines, and again, most of it's just pentatonic. So unless you get
Yeah.
crazy stuff, but yeah,
Sure.
oftentimes pentatonic 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. But the times that they if the song not ask for it, if the song plays it where there's a little line that's like either it's just not repetitive, it's not like something that repeats over and over again, but it's something unique and they only do it one time, or maybe there's multiple things like that in a
Mhm.
song. Those are things that trip me up where I have to actually stop, pause, like possibly loop it somehow, or single out like the instrument.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where all all the rules go out the window and you're just like, okay, I just got to sit and listen now and just focus and noodle and try to figure it out. Versus, 9 times out of 10 for every other worship song, you can literally just say the numbers and you're like, okay, I'm good. And
Mhm.
then you'll just do what you do with those numbers with, like you said, in those little triads, right in the middle of the guitar or middle of the string set.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, yeah. It's funny. I honestly can't remember a specific time where I either learned or utilized the number system. I feel like it was just a combination of like people using it as I thought it was like slang. Like, oh, just land on the one. And I was like, yeah, the one is like the root of the song. And like people would
Mhm.
just say those things. And over time I just picked it up. But I know that there was an instance where like I had to either I was taking like a music test or or I was learning about like the Nashville number system because that's technically
Mhm.
what it is. And but I was reading about it in like our country guitar class or something. It was so it felt like rudimentary, because you
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was applying it in real time like you were. I was literally just filling out like a sheet that said, you know, what is A minor in the G major harmonized major scale? I was just
Mhm.
like, that's the two. Like, okay, whatever. Um, But I almost wish I had learned it younger, but through just process elimination as I'm jamming with people and they're saying things and it would have been cooler.